Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and just moments ago, before we hit the little on-air red light here for the latest Steel City Underground podcast episode here with Mr. Brian E. Roach, he used another one of my mom-isms. Mom was here all of last week. Well, my daughter was on spring break. That's why we only had the one show. We're hoping we get two in this week as we're rounding the corner for the draft season. And the momism, a lot of people, even though I may have said this, some people may be new to the show, and welcome. I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio, and there's a lot of Pittsburghese that floated up there through the steel industry. So my mom says stuff like yins and measure and worsh. And, well, actually, my buddy's mom said worsh more than my mom. But you get the point there. And Brian said, I'm ready for Freddie. And I'm like, what's the story behind Freddie? I don't know no Freddie. I only know Brian. Or there's no Dana. There's only Zool.
There is only Zool. I'm just going to tell you, I'll reach into my ancient bag of knowledge. The term Ready Freddie was coined by Al Cap. In a comic, in Little Abner comics back in the 40s or 50s somewhere. Okay. That's where it comes from.
Okay.
Ready Freddie.
I mean, no, that makes sense. It probably came from my grandmother who, did a lot of that. I was just actually was speaking about the word capiche gets thrown around a lot, like, okay or whatever.
Yeah.
And my grandmother would say that, both sides, actually. A lot of Eastern European descent there, Polish, maybe some German or Russian, Croatian, Slovak, Slovenia, all that stuff. You just mix them all together over there. But my grandmother used to speak like 5 languages, so it was like,
oh wow,
oh yeah. So everything got broken around wherever. At one point, what was she born, like 1918? Her parents are the ones who came through Ellis Island off the boat. I know you wouldn't know this, but I'm just saying, like, there were so many people that didn't speak the language here, and so you get a lot of the yins and stuff like that ends up becoming part of the lexicon for a certain area.
Now, let me tell you the dark side of this.
Okay.
Freddie in that comic was the Undertaker.
Ooh.
So when somebody said Ready Freddie, that meant you were about to die.
Bring out your dead, just like the Monty Python.
Bring out the dead.
But
I'm not quite
dead.
Ready. I'm not quite dead yet. Oh, yes.
I know you're not a Step Brothers guy, and it used to be, we have another new gentleman who I'll introduce as soon as he gets his mock draft up and on the website. We'll put his name out there, joining our ranks. And, I forgot to put him through the Step Brothers test, but that was the other thing. It was like, you're burying me alive. He was like, but I'm not dead. He was like, shh, you wake the neighbors. So, just, anyways.
I'm almost ready to watch it.
Almost. And I know you're not the Will Ferrell guy, which is okay. He's an acquired taste. I mean, just don't watch Semi-Pro, or there's a few other movies you could avoid.
But. If I see Will Ferrell, I have an attack of what's his face itis, Mark Madden itis.
Oh, I was just about to bring him up too, but we may be getting long in the tooth here. I should. Yes,
people are already commenting. 57 minutes in, and you haven't started talking about anything important yet.
What are the positions of need? I don't know. I have to measure those things. So just, there's not a whole lot going on the Steelers front. When you got news like Najee Harris doing a Zoom meeting or meeting with the Steelers and saying, oh, they were really cool. And it's like, everybody thinks Mike Tomlin's cool. He's a cool cat. That's why he gets called a cheerleader by Terry Bradshaw and some of the fans that are out there. And, Brian, I've been thinking about this since our last episode. I know there'll be some carryover because we were talking about how the Steelers free agent signings, or whoever they brought back or whoever they grabbed, it was kind of like, I hate calling it the great value brand, the Walmart shopping, but sometimes you're comparing. You got you got the good lunch meat, or you got the cheap bologna that's sitting there, and you got to eat bologna this week because you just can't afford. No, well, it's not even being cheap. It is cheap, and that's the reason why you buy it, because you can't afford the good stuff. You know what I mean? So the chip chop ham, which was a favorite of Isley's as well. I know Isley's made its way down into the Pittsburgh area. That was a staple of the Northeast Ohio, Youngstown area too. So, this is what the Steelers were doing, was the chip chop ham, the bologna type stuff during free agency. And we were saying how that might kind of predict what they're going to do in the draft, but we kind of have to run through some of the position groups here and actually say whether there is a position of need here, because as I continue to, and we're going to mock the mock drafts very soon too. I just didn't get them all compiled.
I can't wait.
I didn't get them compiled, so I didn't want to just bang here on. I believe it or not, I will be prepared for that show. I didn't want to just bang around like a chimpanzee on my keyboard over here.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Very sad. As I bump the microphone and make lots of racket anyways. So let's look at I was about to say mocking the mock drafts. As I continue to see Mac Jones show up at pick 24, I don't know. Somebody is going to reach on that guy, and we're already there's whispers, 49ers, and the Jets just, we should talk about that. That's actually NFL news. Some people wanted that to happen for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Sam Darnold going Carolina. New start, fresh start there. Man, imagine Teddy Bridgewater, man, the path that he took coming back from that gruesome injury. He had just finally won a starting job in Minnesota. Then they had like 3 quarterbacks that all were like hurt at the same time. They got rid of all of them for Kirk Cousins and paid him a boatload of money, $96 million or whatever, and then they can't afford to keep anybody else. So that's, I'm not going to quote the newer R-rated Joker movie, but you get what you ask for. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But poor Teddy Bridgewater, man. I mean, this guy, he goes to the Vikings, and then, he had a small spell here with the Jets, and the Saints end up picking him up, and he looks like he could be the heir apparent for Drew Brees, and he won some games filling in, and then he went to the Panthers, and I was looking up his contract here. Let me see. 3 years, $63 million, and now it looks like the Panthers are all in on anybody but Teddy. Not ready for Teddy, ready for Freddie. So,
yeah.
Poor Teddy Bridgewater, man. I mean, it looks like now there's a competition there because you just don't go and make a trade for Darnold. Although I will say this much. People are like, why did the Steelers do this? Because the guy is entering the final season of his rookie deal. There could be a 5th-year option tossed on top of this. The team could still option him because he was a former first-round pick. It doesn't matter who drafted him. Very similar situation with Minkah Fitzpatrick that's going to come up here with the Steelers. But, yeah, why would you do this? A lot of people are still like, draft a quarterback, do this and that. And this is all tying together, folks, because quarterback is the first thing we're going to talk about. I already started with Mac Jones here. Not going to happen. Not going to draft a quarterback. No reason to trade for somebody else. They've kind of solidified this position by having Ben Roethlisberger come back. I still have, fans, Cincinnati fans, Browns fans. Those are the ones I mingle with or co-mingle with here in Ohio. And
you need a vaccination for that.
Oh yeah, you need they say to wear the 2 masks. They need to wear the bags over their heads. Still, I understand the Steelers lost to the Browns, but the Steelers still won the division. So you're ragging on Ben. Get out of town here, okay? But Ben's back. You still got the guy that you would invested time in a draft pick with and has some experience in Mason Rudolph. You got another guy that went 7th overall as a first-round draft pick to the then Washington Redskins, now the Washington football team. I wonder if they'll have a mascot this year. I wonder if they're going to change it. I don't know. We'll see. But Dwayne Haskins, so you've got him on board too. I think they're pretty settled right there, at least for 2021. Everybody wants to kick the can forward and look ahead at 22 and 23, and you can't do that. You just got to look at 21 right now. You draft somebody, that means somebody already there has got to go of those 3. The Steelers keep 3. A lot of teams only keep 2. And Steelers actually had 4 last year because they kept Duck Hodges on the practice squad. So Steelers picking at 24, right? I got this right. 24.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. I don't know why, man. I keep thinking prior years. I get caught up in 18 and all these other numbers. And so anyways, 24, unless they move up, I don't foresee them trading. I don't foresee them looking at a quarterback. And there's major speculation, I would say, that 4 or 5 of these guys are gone, picks 10 through 15, which also very much bodes well for pick 24 because that means your offensive tackles and guys like that are sliding down the list towards the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, there was a former SCU alumnus who posted a Twitter question out there about if Justin Fields and one of the other guys, Lance, I think, were to fall, should the Steelers trade with the Cowboys to move up? And the answer is no, you jag-off. But no. They're not going to draft a quarterback. Even the guys who are saying they're going to draft, and Zach Adonia, you're one of these guys, by the way, and you're wrong. They're going to draft somebody in the third round, Tremond. No, they're not going to do that. They picking up Dwayne Haskins is their security blanket, as in a developmental quarterback. They're not going to draft another developmental quarterback unless Dwayne Haskins has proved to them already that he can't be that guy. I don't believe that's the case. And unless, as I will say it repeatedly, unless there is some ridiculous value that falls to them at some point, if Justin Fields or Trey Lance or one of the top quarterbacks is sitting there at 24, all bets could be off. I still don't think they'll do it. They might entertain a trade because at that point, somebody's going to be trying to come up there and get one of them.
Yeah.
But that's the only scenario that they're going to go and pick a quarterback, is if it's a value pick that you just simply can't overlook. And I don't think that's going to happen in the third round. So forget that. So no quarterbacks are being drafted. And that's my mantra for this year.
Yeah. At 24, everyone's always like, hey, slide back, and we said something just the other day, and I want to go back to the comments section. I don't remember who said it, but they said, I'm not sure what the point was that was being made, actually, quite clear on what was said, but it was, let me see. You don't win Super Bowls in free agency. Tell that to Patriots and Ferrier the Bus, Harrison, Randall L., and others. And I didn't comment on it in the comments section, but you don't win Super Bowls in free agency.
And it's funny how most of those, other than James Ferrier, most of those guys were Steelers.
Well, hold on a second. Even the Patriots, a lot of their cornerstone guys, Tom Brady, Gronk, Patrick Chung, Jamie Collins, Dante Hightower. I believe Wes Welker as well, Julian Edelman, tons of those guys, Nate Solder, Teddy Bruschi too. They were all drafted by the Patriots, so I mean, they hit on 2 or 3 of those every now and then. Now, they haven't been hitting, and when they signed some guys, I think Coney Easley is like the one. Chad Ochocinco didn't magically go there and become like some big stud, but they've gotten guys like Corey Dillon or Curtis Martin or Randy Moss, the biggest one. Like the Steelers haven't done that as well. They find some guys here or there. I mean, Eric Ebron being one of the more recent type signings. Steven Nelson, unfortunately, man, I don't know what's going on with all of that and jazz. I'm not upset at him. I don't really know. He said he wasn't approached to take a pay cut, but it also sounded like he was in talks about a potential extension, and there was no money there to pay him more, and he's still sitting on the shelf collecting dust right now as teams prepare for the draft. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of free agent activity around the league. Pretty much, if anyone was coveted at this point, they would already be signed. So it kind of sucks because I was really into the Steve Nelson camp, but at the same time, I don't know why people are attacking him. It's part of the business, It's brutal where guys get released, or you have Tyson Alualu who was going to go sign with Jacksonville, and then no, I changed my mind. You get things like that happen too. It's all over the place. So just let him do his business, man. I didn't think he was really trash talking. The only guy he was kind of getting into it with was Devin Bush, and basically it was like, well, just wait until you hit this. You're under a rookie contract, was the gist of what I took from that conversation or the back and forth. But yeah, Ferrier was a free agent. The Bus was a trade. James Harrison was an undrafted guy that was cut like 4 times by the Steelers alone. He was not really a Bill Cowher favorite. Mike Tomlin's the guy who inserted him into the lineup, and they rolled with him after Clark Higgins and Joey Porter left, I believe. And Randall L. was drafted by the Steelers, so it was like I wasn't sure, sir, what your comment was, but maybe we'll clear that up. If you agreed with us, great. If you didn't, well, maybe we changed your mind and you're wrong. So I don't know. But, the thing is like, in free agency, you're not going to win free agency. If you win free agency, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're winning everything else. Tampa Bay,
Correct.
Now everybody wants to be Tampa Bay. Well, if you want to be Tampa Bay, that means about a decade of mediocrity and having a bunch of guys under rookie contracts that you're not paying, so you can go out and get a quarterback who's already won several Super Bowls, throw him on your roster, and then everybody else kind of comes along with him. This worked in one other place, by the way, and that was the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos with Peyton Manning, and then Tampa Bay this past year with Tom Brady, of course. So when you have that, look where Denver's at now. A few years after Peyton had retired, they're still looking for their guy. And it's a bitter pill to swallow. The Steelers may eventually be at that point with Big Ben. But this isn't the year. I think the Steelers would much rather roll with whatever they got. They go forward with Rudolph or Haskins after Ben. We don't even know. Ben could be back next year too. We don't know that. We don't know yet. They got all these void things. Brady's kind of going year to year. Ben's going year to year. Kevin Colbert's going year to year. Mike Tomlin might be year to year. I don't know. Like it's like everybody's kind of like in this cycle, and then you're going to get everybody on the same page, and you're going to move forward with it. But a quarterback is not. Trey Lance bothers me. I you know me. I'm the FCS guy. I've watched North Dakota State. They play my alma mater at Youngstown State. And Trey Lance is definitely a guy with the tools and potential. But potential doesn't necessarily win you games right now. And because of the COVID stuff, he hasn't played in forever. So he's one that's very curious to me, but he's not somebody that I'm going to trade up for and jump at the draft. And even if he's sitting there and you have one of these top offensive tackles that could definitely, and even that could backfire on you. It's not a sure thing, but I'm not going with the quarterback whatsoever, not the first round pick. And any of the other guys in the later rounds, you're just asking to cut somebody else and not work with Rudolph or Haskins behind Ben Roethlisberger. Now, provided if Haskins kind of between now and the next 3 weeks does something ridiculous to get him thrown off the team, you may bend my ear. What was it, Kellen Mond or somebody like that falls round 3, round 4. I mean, that's kind of where they ended up finding Kyle Rudolph. See, now you got me doing it. Mason Rudolph. So, yeah, absolutely. Brian, I know you're on board with me with this. More than likely,
100%.
If you're getting a starting quarterback, you got to get him first round, and then there's no guarantees that the first rounders work either. This isn't the year. I would rather see the Steelers stink for a year and have one of the top picks, and then grab whoever might be around at that point than make one of these trades like they ended up happening here with the Dolphins and 49ers, where there's your whole future. The 49ers are already kind of set with their roster and kind of built what they have there, and now they're just looking for the final piece, maybe with a quarterback, and not thinking that, they did that whole deal with Jimmy G too, and then they're not sure that that's kind of the path they want to go down either. That's kind of where I want to see the Steelers at, and I think they'll be in that position given some of the other stuff that's there. Let's get some of these other positions kind of fleshed out. The next flashy one, Brian, is running back, and I am not a fan whatsoever of burning the first-round pick on a running back. The only way I burn a first-round pick on a running back is if I feel they won't be there for my second-round pick.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will add the caveat, which I've repeatedly said, is the only way I burn a first-round pick on a running back is also if everybody else that I wanted is gone. The Steelers, we've talked about this often. The Steelers are going to go by their board. So if the running back is the highest ranked person on their board, they'll pull the trigger. If he's not, and the guy that they want that's a higher ranked guy is there, then that's the way they're going to go. It's that simple. And they know, they generally do not use first round picks on running backs. It's a rarity as opposed to, you got Franco, you got Richard Mendenhall, and shame on me for listing the two of them in the same, context. Yeah. I don't remember if Barry Foster might have been, and there was another guy I know that they picked that flamed out. Tim something. Tim.
There was Tim Worley. No, Barry Foster was a 5th round pick. Believe it or not.
Yeah, there you go. So
Tim Worley was the
find-
year before Barry Foster, believe it or not, in '89, and then 1990 was Barry Foster.
But
Chuck
Worley
Noll
was
guy.
a first-round kick, right? He
What's
was
that?
a first-round pick. Wasn't Worley a first-round pick?
Worley was the first-round pick, 7th
Yeah.
overall. They had 2 first-round picks in '89. Tom Ricketts was the other, pick 7 and pick 24.
For those days when draft insanity actually existed. 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, and then they get Carnell Lake in the second round. So it's like, I
Yeah.
always feel good about the second round with the Steelers, and that's where I would go with the running back pick, provided you don't feel at pick 24, you got to feel that if you go running back, you got to feel that that's at the worst pick 54. You know what I mean?
Yes,
meaning
exactly.
You're not going to get the guy at 55. And there's 3 of them there that I would feel comfortable with. It still reminds me of going back to the draft 2013, Le'Veon Bell, Gio Bernard, who was just released. Hey, look, Gio Bernard's a fine player, and he got kind of done dirty there by the Bengals. As for a pay cut, these guys got all the money in the world to be able to pay him right now. I don't understand what they're doing, but whatever. I like Gio Bernard is the kind of guy that would go to the Patriots and fit in right like a glove with the way that they
like a
cycle in
glove.
running backs. But with the Steelers, he would just be watching from the sideline because he's not going to be the bell cow, I don't think, particularly at this stage of his career. Would they lean on him that way? And they just got Kalen Ballage as kind of their insurance there. So, but anyways, that 2013 draft was Gio Bernard first. He was the top overall guy. He was in the second round. Le'Veon Bell was next, and everybody cried, oh, my goodness, Eddie Lacy was on the board. And then I think Monty Ball was there, too. As you know, did we have draft Twitter back then? Probably did. The preferred pick by draft Twitter was somebody other than Bell, and Bell ended up being the best of the lot there. Bernard still was just kind of like third down. I always think third down back, but he was a complimentary type guy this whole time with the Bengals. So that's the way I feel about Etienne, Harris, and Javonte Williams. I would be happy with any of those 3 guys. Do you think all 3 of them are going to go before pick 55? Highly doubt it. If you get one running back that goes in the first round, that's going to be about it. And I feel kind of good maybe sitting on that and waiting. And now if they don't get a running back, let's say all 3 are gone round 2. Is there another guy you're looking at round 2? Now you're probably bumping out to rounds 3 or 4. And there's other guys that are out there. Like I really like Trey Sermon. I think Trey Sermon is untapped. I think he's somebody that I know I got my Homer-ism going being the Buckeye fan. But he showed me some stuff that I think if he develops at the next level, he could definitely be a steal. But you're not going to overpay for that, and I don't think anybody else is either.
No, Trey Sermon's not going anywhere above, I don't think, the 3rd round. I'll be stunned. And I also really like Trey Sermon. In fact, the first mock I did, remember, I picked Trey Sermon in the 3rd or 4th round. But, yeah, you target guys that you think, okay, if I can get them in between 24 and 55, one of those 2 picks, and that's the best player on my board. Ideally, you want him at 55. That's just what you do. That's where you want to pick your running back if you can. Remember we had somebody tell us 5 running backs were going in the first round in one of the comment sections. They're not going to be 5 running backs going in the first round, but God bless them if they do, because hey, that just means that we'll get the tackles or whatever else we want because they're going to have all gone before us. I just don't see it. I won't be surprised if this is another year where no running back goes in the first round, despite all of, the other things. And the way to look at it is just what one of the commentators was like, well, what about Derrick Henry? Didn't realize Derrick Henry, not a first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, it proves the point. It's an undervalued position, and it's undervalued for a reason because their lifespan, generally speaking, is short. They're the Great Danes of the football family. They're pretty. We like them. They're nice pieces to have, but they don't last long. Just is what it is.
I'm trying to find. We did this on a show. Yeah, go ahead. I'm trying to actually find. I had that list because it was like Sony Michel, Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the only one last year. You had guys like Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, but it's kind of few and far in between thing as to guys that were taken. Oh, Rashad Penny too.
Yeah.
They're none of these guys on the original rosters except CEH because he was just drafted last year. So teams aren't valuing the running back position as a first-round pick. Plus, they pay more for that at that running back position too if they take him with the first-round pick. So a lot of that pay is consummate with the draft status. If you're the first top overall pick, you go up and down the ladder, plus what the position is as well. So you were saying, I'm going to find this. That's basically the gist of that list, though.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line, as I said, is it's unlikely that more than one goes. And even if none go, that means the Steelers are, again, going to have a good chance. Even if they have to make a move, maybe there's a run on running backs early in the second round, and the guy they want is there, they may have to move up in the second round. Don't be surprised if they try that. But it all depends on how they have slotted these guys talent-wise. As I said, it doesn't matter what we think, and it doesn't matter how we even, generalize what the league is doing. If the Steelers say Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, whatever, if that's the top guy left on their board when they hit 24, it won't even be a question. They're going to take that guy. Yeah, I just don't think that's the way it's going to lay out.
Well, even look last year. I mean, we were talking about J.K. Dobbins. He was right there within reach, and they passed. So, who's to say that one of those three names, I can picture one of them going before their second-round pick. And I trust Kevin Colbert, like I was saying before. The amount of guys he has snuck in second round. Who do we have? Last year, Chase Claypool, right?
Juju,
yes. Stephon Tuitt, Bell. Yep. There's just so many guys that they end up finding tremendous value and fit for their system in the second round, to where we're not arguing here. We were talking about position wants and needs. The actual want, the need is running back.
There is absolutely a need there.
The want is got to get Najee Harris, top pick, first-round pick. Got to make him a first-round pick. And I think that's more of the want versus the need. The need is going to come second, third round with one of these young men. And it could even be, you could go a little further down, Michael Carter, Kenneth Gainwell, some of these other names that are here. So I know some people like Chuba Hubbard from Oklahoma State. There's a few names like that are going to, kind of sprinkle throughout these rounds. But getting to some of the other positions too, Brian, we definitely agree on running back. I just don't want the first round. We're kind of looking at skill positions, but we could almost agree that they're going to take a wide receiver at some point. But wide receiver is not going to be a need. It's going to be kind of a general want, and it's going to be one of these guys they find third, fourth, fifth round or something, maybe even a sixth-round pick, because right now they've got everybody returning from last year. They have 6 guys. I kind of forgot that Ray McLeod was a guy that was added very late in the process as well, so he's been around now with the full year under his belt. We could see what else he may do too, but Juju coming back, you got 6 guys, right? Juju, James Washington, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Ray McLeod.
I think that's it.
5, whatever.
And they got 4 other guys that are hanging around. So it's a full room, man.
That's the whole point. Is where you go? What kind of pick are you going to take there? I kind of laugh because I see a lot of the Cincinnati Bengals kind of mock drafts, and we were talking about if they don't take an offensive lineman, they'd be done. But everybody's kind of mocking them, either Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase, right there at pick 5, and it's kind of like that'd be like them taking a quarterback at this point. Like that's not what they need, nor what the Steelers need here. Yeah, I mean, and the Steelers added a couple of other names here too. So 5 guys at the most. They usually keep maybe 6 at maximum. You're not going to see anything that's too flashy with wide receiver. I think tight end is kind of out there too, because besides Pitts, what are you going to burn a pick on with tight end? I understand that maybe you want Vance McDonald retired. Maybe you want something or somebody other than just Eric Ebron with a very unproven but guy I like, and Kevin Rader. a blocking guy that opened eyes with the coaching staff as far as special teams. I look at the list of tight ends, and it's like, well, they could add somebody here in the draft pretty much. But again, I don't think this is a top half of the draft need. It would be a want.
I'm not even positive that wide receivers are want. This could be the rare year where they don't draft a wide receiver.
Potentially.
It's very possible. But the trend has been that the wide receiver groups in the drafts, all the classes tend to be very deep anymore. There's a lot of talent at wide receiver that seems to come out of the college ranks. So if they've spent 1 year and went, this ain't the year because we got other needs that are more important, great. But this is going to be a recurring theme. If the guy that's on the board, that is they have ranked highest at the position they're drafting, is a wide receiver, they'll take a wide receiver.
Man, everybody will go absolutely bonkers because we all know what I'm getting at. We're getting at improving the running game. And running back is a need, but I think it's a thing where you can have patience in the draft and see what comes to you round 2, round 3. I think round 2 is probably going to be the sweet spot if you want one of those top 3 guys. I think Sermon slides a little bit due to injury history and a little bit of there's just not enough film on him. Abbreviated season, that kind of sucks. I wish he would have had a little bit more time. Master Teague was not a guy that really popped off the screen for me at Ohio State. So, anyways. It's offensive line, and I don't know that it's necessarily okay. You've got needs. You may need a center. We were laughing because I was looking at what this depth chart was on.
May.
What's that?
As much as I like B.J. Finney, it's not a May. They need a center.
Well, yeah, they need a center, but do they do it in this draft? Do they find the guy that's a long-term guy? And somebody pointed out
they can.
Yeah,
they can. It's not, but again. It's not necessarily in the first. In fact, it's not in the first round. If they pick a center in the first round, I would be stunned because I don't believe any of the centers that are currently in this draft class are first-round caliber guys.
Yeah.
Not that they couldn't be, but they all have the kind of questions about their game that would move them down out of the first round. They could absolutely, guys like Creed Humphreys, guys like Landon Dickerson, and Trey Smith or whatever his name is from Georgia. Those guys could all be first round worthy guys down the road, but there's too many questions about them right now.
Yeah, and I agree. And I'm thinking, this could be the second round pick. What if they
could
did?
Be.
We're talking offensive line. I don't think we're talking guards. Guards aren't usually guys that go very. I mean, you got to be David DeCastro to go very high. And I think they're okay at guard because if you find a center,
Dotson and DeCastro
and Finney
make it, and Finney as a swing, I think you're good.
Yeah, I believe so.
And then who do they? Joe Haig, as depth.
Yeah, they've got some guys that can play all along. Coward as well. We'll see. Or I hope I'm saying his name properly because Coward just doesn't. It makes me cringe.
It's a bad name for an offensive line guy.
Yeah, it's like Wendell.
You coward.
About Wendell Smallwood. Bad names.
Yeah, in his tiny wood. Yeah.
So, we're looking at tackles. I mean, and everybody wants the tackle. Everybody wants to protect the blind side. And that's precisely what the Steelers need here. Now, I mean, they could roll. They've got Zach Banner there, but Zach Banner was penciled in as right tackle for the start of last season. Chuks Okorafor just played there, and they probably feel, well, what kind of are we going to do this competition thing again? And he's entering a contract year as well. So nothing is certain here. The only certainty is that tackle is, I think, the primary need among the offensive line positions, closely followed by center. And whichever one, if they go tackle at 24 and center at 55, you won't hear any complaints from me, particularly if Trey Sermon slides into the third round or they get one of the centers in the third round. Well, they got two picks in the fourth, right? Let me see what number here. 128 and 140. So you go from 24 to 55 to 87, 128, 140. There's a lot of space there, but again, we may have gone through the list. I may have to pull it up once again and look at all of the different names of the NFL starters that are out there that the centers aren't necessarily first round guys. They're usually middle of the round guys. And then some of these guys are completely undrafted altogether. In fact, I'm hoping that I've got this one right. Yeah. Guy who just won the Super Bowl, Ryan Jensen with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 2013, he was a 6th round pick at number 203 overall. So you could definitely, you may not find the next Hall of Famer. I was going to mention, because we may have had the brain fart about, somebody brought up in the comments too, Justin Hartwig was in there in between. Justin Hartwig, Sean Mahan, Jeff Hardings. Doug Legursky started in the Super Bowl. I'll blame that on, losing to Aaron Rodgers back then. But, Brian, you're driving me crazy with all the filters. You look like the Joker.
I was celebrating.
You look like the bad Joker. You don't look like the 4-hour Zack Snyder cut Joker. You look like the Suicide Squad Joker with all the things you're putting on your face.
I was celebrating tackle, center, Trey Sermon. That's what I was doing.
I would be completely okay with that. Everybody would go nuts because everybody thinks that the fix to the running game is just to grab a high running back.
Don't yell at me or I'll put my belly button scar back up on the background.
What the heck? Dude, when did
belly
we
button
ever do
scar.
that? No.
I did it once.
You're going to drive everyone from YouTube to just the audio-only platforms here, man. just say no. But yeah, that's kind of, I'm good with 2 offensive line picks. It reminds me, and we got to still, once again, we will talk offensive line. I'm going to get to it. It may be a post-draft thing just because some people have said they failed.
It might be useful at that point.
Yeah, it failed to address it in so long, and it's like, well, they haven't had to because they used high picks on Marquise Pouncey and Marcus Gilbert and David DeCastro, and then they had Ramon Foster there already, and you had 4 out of the 5, and then even Kelvin Beachum was a 7th round pick that he just got re-signed by the Cardinals too. He continues to plug along in the NFL and have a very long career. Everybody thought he was undersized, and sometimes it's more the motion to the ocean than the size that matters, and some of those things. So guys get to carve out a niche here in the NFL, and if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, he would have never found out about Alejandro Villanueva, which was it Sean O'Hara? I was watching NFL Network the other day, and he was talking about, well, they didn't bring back Alejandro Villanueva, so I feel they're going to do blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, yeah, Pro Football Focus was doing the same thing too because they'd given him such a high grade, but it was the dink-dunk offense that protected him from having a worse grade. That's the reason why I'm just telling right now.
That right there is the debunking process of that particular platform, PFF.
You can't go by just the grades. It just doesn't work that way.
You got their equation is flawed. It's flawed. Chris Collingsworth, your stupid thing is flawed. And whoever you are, PFF Steve or Ed or Fred
Sam.
or Freddie, Sam,
Freddie.
PFF Sam,
Freddie and Teddy, Freddie and Teddy.
Yeah, they're and it's unfair to say that they're idiots. They're statisticians who are not accounting for real world scenarios.
No,
so,
at a certain
your
point,
grade is bogus.
Yeah, at some point though, they have to assign like a very static variable to all this to cover. It's a blanket statement over everything. So I get it. You just it's a fluid thing though. You can't just say, well, this guy had a 77 whatever grade and that was better than however many other tackles, and it's just like
bogus.
But we could say offensive
bogus.
Line is not only a need, it's a double need because there's 5 spots there. And
they need 2.
It's in disarray. And I think drafting 2 there and getting a running back, those are the needs. But are there needs on defense, though? Tyson Alualu really helps with this. Him coming back in 2 years deal there. They like to try and grab some guys, some of these defensive linemen later in the draft. And I don't know if they have enough picks for everything else that I think they need. But linebacker, we talked about this on the last show. This is where I said there's a little bit of carryover. First round pick, if you have a corner or a linebacker sitting there, I mean, you could even potentially say safety, but the safety's going to sit. The safety's going to sit behind Edmonds.
Safety,
at least a year or 2. Yeah, it's more a want. It's something for depth. You may look at someone later. I don't even know. Antoine Brooks could even be somebody that eventually gets back in this mix somehow too. You know what I mean? It's hard to gauge where fifth round pick and what he didn't make sixth round pick last year. They didn't have a fifth round pick, but it's hard to gauge where his development is. It may take a year or two, and the team knows exactly what they're going to do with that, with their war room and everything. We talked about Steven Nelson going wayside there, and that's because Cam Sutton, that was my top guy to bring back. Bring back Cam Sutton. You're losing Mike Hilton. You're going to need another nickel corner unless you're throwing Killebrew or Marcus Allen or somebody like that in one of these roles, which is still possible, or even Brooks could be possible. So, but you're probably looking at Joe Hayden here, 31? 32, he's up there in age, so you're probably looking at Justin Lane. Is Justin Lane? I know some people are giving a lot of credence just because he's on the roster. I saw something already just the other day from one of the other sites about James Pierre versus Justin Lane or whatever as Joe Hayden's success. Man, we are really going far down the road there. The guy that's probably his successor, more than likely, if it's not Lane or they don't have Lane in some other role on the field this year, that guy's not on the roster yet. And it may not be on the roster until a few weeks up in Cleveland. The draft in Cleveland, really, in April. It's going to be miserable weather. I almost guarantee it. It's miserable there all the time. But corner is something I could see. Linebacker might be thought of as a luxury, but a lot of people ragging on my boy Bobby Spillane here. Robert Spillane showed that he could be a starter. I understand you're getting much of the same thing as Vince Williams. You're getting a thumper, a run stopper, a guy that can blitz that maybe is suspect against the pass. But it doesn't mean he needs to be out there on the field when they have 4 or 5 wide opposition comes out with 4 wide receivers in the huddle. Brian, Spillane is not going to be on the field for that. Devin Bush will be. But if Devin Bush were to get hurt again, they're really scratching their keisters right now. So if you're the Steelers and you're at pick 24, and we said all these quarterbacks, maybe the quarterbacks don't go. Maybe a few of these guys hang around and teams decide to invest in other areas. Their offensive line, for example. You get a bunch of tackles that fly off the board, and you're looking at like the 5th or 6th best tackle available at this point. Do they start to lean? Do they start to lean towards? I don't think they lean as we talked about this wide receiver, tight end. Nah, it's not going to be one of those picks. Not at 24. Do you look at a linebacker or a cornerback here at 24? I wouldn't necessarily be upset if it means the next pick's a running back, and then maybe they bounce back around at a center. The problem is, you got some folks that say that the draft is deep with tackles this year as well. How deep? 3rd round tackle? I don't know. Maybe
second
not.
For sure.
Second
Maybe
round?
there may be guys that you can pick up in the 3rd that are okay. There's definitely developmental guys that you can pick up in the 3rd. I'll tell you, from my standpoint, if the linebacker in question's name is Micah, you take him. Then it's gone. You're done. If he's still on the board and their tackle's there, then they're done. They're still going to take him. But
what's the realistic prospect of that happening though?
That's not very realistic. Zaven Collins is a possibility if other situations are not there. There's a couple other linebacker prospects that exist. They could conceivably go outside and go edge. But I don't think that's the priority. They'll pick an edge guy at some point in this draft. There's no question in my mind. They'll pick an inside linebacker at some point in this draft. But it's all going to balance out as to where they feel they're getting the best value. So
I think we covered defensive line really isn't that. So you're either looking at an edge rusher, an inside linebacker, or a corner. Which of those are wants versus needs? Like if you're in the top half of the draft, I would say grabbing an inside linebacker is probably pretty smart. But they've also had tremendous luck finding guys like Vince Williams was a 6th round pick. I'm sure that's what they were thinking with Ulysses Gilbert. And who else am I thinking of? Oh, Robert Spillane, completely undrafted. But then again, they had to go and get Ryan Shazier and Devin Bush 1st round picks. But you pair one of these other guys, one of these top guys in there with Bush, you don't even have to think about maybe replacing Mike Hilton or doing some crazy nonsense.
No, because all of a sudden you've got the kind of speed and coverage ability in there that you want. I think it's very it's very likely that if circumstances play out so that the tackles aren't there, and even if there is a running back there, if there's a linebacker that fits their mode, that gets their fire burning, and is still on the board at 24, that they feel is the best player, again, they'll take them. It's possible that they might take a corner, especially if they are at all hesitant about, Justin Lane or Cam Sutton really being able to handle taking over for Steven Nelson. I'm not, you're not. We don't think they are, because we think that's why they went that way. But if they want to know that they've got a guy, that it's possible. Again, one of the top 10 kind of guys falls to 24. Do you go, oh, I don't want Patrick Surtain because it's 24 and I've got, Cam Sutton. I don't want Patrick. Well, no, you take him. So,
and that's the kind of stuff that I was kind of alluding to. How crazy are you going to go? You're going to get so you have the first night of the draft, just the first round, and you go defense. Everybody is going to go ballistic. Now, if you go second round and you really want a running back, now if they get it, that will probably whet the appetites of the casual fan, especially if it's like Najee Harris, because that's the only name they've been hearing about. But the casual fan, and then all the rest of us are going to be like, well, what the heck are they going to do about this offensive line? They didn't replace Marquise Pouncey, and there'll still be some other casuals that are out there that will recognize that, at least, that they have to draft, absolutely need to draft a center. But, if you're looking at a few of these guys that are out there at the cornerback position, they use a first-round pick. Now, I understand the track record with Kevin Colbert and defensive backs, corners in particular, not necessarily the best, but then again, you're grabbing a guy like Doran Grant in the 4th round. A lot of these guys are mid-round picks. He may or may not have hit on Justin Lane, but we feel that he hit on Cam Sutton. So I guess we'll see exactly where that goes, but I could just kind of predict the kind of turmoil that's going to end up happening if it's a defensive pick, and if it's not a running back, and they do grab a tackle or somebody in the second round, somebody that falls there, everybody's going to go nuts because then it's not a running back. What are these clowns doing? They don't ever know. It'll be the same nonsense as this same draft from the 2017 class where it was TJ Watt. Oh, they're just doing it on name recognition. This guy had bad knees. He had to convert from being a tight end to a linebacker. That was some of our knocks on it. We were still excited about it. I remember Derek Rivers was our guy. That was my hometown homer pick right there. And he went all the way to the 3rd round. And we also wanted who's the guy with the blonde hair with the Patriots from Michigan? That they were kind of entertaining at the same time. We were thinking
Zach Adonia was in love with him, and so was Eric Herman. Those guys were both in love.
Yeah. Now I gotta find his name because I can't think of it. He's actually been doing pretty fine. Oh man, this is bothering me so bad. It's at the tip of my tongue, but it's kind of like the same thing there. Cam Sutton, that's another middle round. Blah. James Conner. That's a hell of a draft for the first 4 picks there. Those are all guys. And Conner's still kind of hanging around there as well. Oh, the Patriots, this is interesting. By the way, they have an unofficial depth chart that they keep on here. Most of the NFL teams put something on here that say our depth chart will be updated in 2021. They have an unofficial depth chart. Chase Winovich. I knew it was Chase something, but didn't want to waffle here. So, yeah, and then they added Matt Judon. This team, screw them. Anyways, that's where I'm at. Running backs, by the way, I have that list. These were everybody since 2013 that went in the first 2 rounds, okay? Bishop Sankey, Jeremy Hill, Carlos Hyde, Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, TJ Yeldon, Amir Abdullah, Ezekiel Elliott, way high up, Ezekiel Elliott, can't even compare. Derrick Henry, 2nd-round pick. Christian McCaffrey, top 10 pick there. Delvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley, another number 3 overall, number 4 overall.
Or 2, I can't remember.
Yeah, he was right up there too. I mean, unless you're jumping off the page like that, and that's not even in the Steelers' realm of plausibility here at 24, so just chill. Rashad Penny, Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, 2nd rounder as well. Ronald Jones, Kerryon Johnson, Darius Geis out of the league, off-field stuff. Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, to be determined there, a lot of these rookies. Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon. And just last year was Helaire in the first round, and then Swift, Taylor, Akers, Dobbins, and Dillon, I believe, all in the second round. I'm going to double-check that here in a second. But, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm looking at, is you'd have to have a run on this position, or you don't have to just necessarily leap out and jump out at one of these guys. Now, if they grab one of them in the first round, I trust the process enough. But we're looking, the Ravens actually picked Dobbins at 55 last year. Okay. Yeah. So everybody, it was Dobbins, going in order. It was Helaire, Swift, Taylor, Akers, Dobbins. And it's still a lot of to be determined. I think we saw a lot out of that class, but I think I would still feel comfortable if that's kind of the way you're looking at this playing out. On the bright side, when you're seeing that 6 running backs go, and then, of course, Antonio Gibson went in the third round, Keshawn Vaughn, Lynn Bowden, Zach Moss, Anthony McFarland here in the fourth round. You start going down, and it starts to, kind of water down because a lot of these guys didn't see playing time or got on the field in the Jets, just terrible situations, or, late in the season and stuff like that. So you can't really make the determination on that. I'm just looking at the amount of players and what the needs might be for some of the teams that are out there. I'm not really quite sure who else may be sniffing around for a running back at this point, but I think the odds are pretty good that the Steelers could end up with 2 very good picks in the top 2 rounds. But again, if they end up going defense, I won't be too brokenhearted. You won't be too brokenhearted. We'll just have to see how everything plays out. I think if they don't get a running back at all, everyone's going.
Well, hey, James Conner, come on back, man.
Yeah, come on down. You're the next. You're the first contestant.
Next contestant on the running back is right. Yes. I'd be stunned. Just stunned if they didn't have a running back somewhere in the mix. They have to know that the guys that they have. I mean, what's the depth chart right now at running back?
Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, Kalen Ballage, Jalen Samuels, mayhaps Trey Edmonds. I have to go look on here. Trey Edmonds is still on the roster. Yeah, that's everybody. Did I say all 5? Yeah.
That's not an improvement to their running game. They're not going to be better with that group of running backs. Sorry.
Tackle and center, though. If you improve both of those, let's say you go there and you don't end up with a running back, that might help. Maybe. The running game was better with Kevin Dotson in, though.
It will help, but I don't believe Benny Snell is a bell cow running back. I don't believe that he is a upper echelon running back. I know that our Kentucky guy is going to complain and whine about that, but tough stuff, buddy. He's not. And neither are any of the other guys.
No, you're taking a huge risk if you're putting all of your eggs in that basket. And it's not to say that Snell might not have a breakout year, but I don't know that you take that risk. So of the needs, offensive line and running back appear to be the biggest, and I would follow up the defense with a linebacker or a corner being very salivating. But, again, something they could probably wait on. Brian, I think we'll put a bow on this. We got more to chew off the bone. We'll start looking at some of these names, or maybe you just will. We'll have to see. I got to bone up, man. It's just not the same type of draft year. It sucks not having the combine to inflate everyone's value, and you don't know, like you've mentioned this many, many times, you don't know where any of this is going.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It's just going to be, you just don't, it's very, Zoom calls are so private unless somebody decides to blab about them. And look, remember when we were interviewing prospects a couple years back, and we got every single one of them who said, what was your favorite meeting? Oh, Mike Tomlin. He was so cool. Yeah. The guys love Tomlin. So that's always going to be the case. It doesn't mean jack squat.
Yeah.
Other than they think he's cool.
I hadn't really reached out to a whole lot of guys. We had some really cool ones we talked to, including Rivers. Rivers was like the huge get, just had the alumni connection there. And I remember him, one of the teams, he was going through all the teams. In fact, Kevin Green, rest in peace, was still there with the Jets, and that was somebody he had spoken to. Had spoken to the Steelers, but he had like something like 16 teams. He had like half the teams that had approached him, and he had mentioned the Patriots, and I had cut him off there, and I said, no, you can't do that. And of course, he landed there. Unfortunately, injuries.
Yeah, you jinxed him.
I jinxed him. That was bad. Well, hopefully it turns around for him. He's with the Houston Texans now, signed as a free agent. Was with the Rams after being released. So we'll see. That's just one. The toughest part about doing this job sometimes is when you speak to these young men, whether they are or aren't on the roster. I remember guys like Keon Adams or DeMarcus Ayers and players like that, and they're trying to cut their teeth. They might be a long shot to make the roster, or they do, and then they're gone, shortly thereafter. And it's part of the business. And that's the reason why I said the stuff I said about Steven Nelson and just chilling on that. So again, we'll wrap this one up. We've got some more to talk about. We'll be mocking the mock drafts. So we got some other things to talk about. Hopefully we'll have some other news or some other little morsels that come out. And then once we get to the draft, it's on like Donkey Kong, man. But until then, it's National Beer Day, and it's also WrestleMania week. So that's where you'll find me. I know you don't care. So
I don't care about either one of those things.
The guy whistling Dixie over there is Brian E. Roach. And my name is Joe Kuzma. We appreciate you listening and tuning in, and we want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. And as my kid would say, watching some of the YouTube stuff there, she's only 7 years old, but she says, so-and-so has merch now. Well, we have merch, and we're going to continue working on some more of that. So head over to Steel City Underground.
We have merch? We have merch?
You have merch. I've sent you merch.
Well, yeah, it's true. I have some. Well, it doesn't fit me anymore. I need new merch.
I know. It's like a nightgown.
I gotta have new merch. It's like
because you're wasting away over there.
And I'm gonna be wasted away more. I'm going to get my vaccine soon.
Oh boy. Well, good luck with that.
I'll be sick as a dog.
Yeah, I hope not, man. Because I need you, and we need to see you again here later this week. If not, then we'll be calling on somebody. Maybe it's time for Noah to show up again. So the professor is still a little preoccupied. He's still a little preoccupied, but he's going to be back just in time for the draft. So
there's no doubt.
That'll be fun. Oh yeah, there definitely is no doubt. I guarantee that was the condition of taking the job that he took. It was kind of like you just got to make sure, like, between this week and this week, that I'm always available. So, anyways, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and buy some merch, or send us buy us a beverage over on the website. There's a button at the end of that thing. I think I've plugged everything that I need to plug for now. So until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.